Hello everyone, Mindy Beverly with you here today for Sassy and Crafty. Today I'm so excited to be showing you guys our new February release products, and we are going to be using some of the new items. This right here is our butterfly wings stencil. We are going to be making a really cute card and then using that same idea to make a scrapbook layout with. So this is our first stencil. All of these items are available in the Sassy and Crafty shop at sassyandcrafty.com. The next item I'm going to be using today from the new release is the Flutter by Butterfly stamp set right here. And it has some really adorable sentiments like change can be beautiful, flutter by a butterfly. Just when the caterpillar thought her life was over, she began to fly, and your wings already exist. All you have to do is fly. So some really beautiful sentiments to send for cards, to encourage friends, or even add to scrapbook layouts. Okay, so let's get started. I am going to be coloring up these butterflies in watercolor paper because I want to give some really fun different effects for their wings. So I have them all here stamped onto watercolor paper. I used waterproof ink as well. And I am going to just be using a watercolor palette, a basic watercolor palette here, and a brush right here as well. This is a number 11 brush. We're mostly going to be doing a wash and then just doing wet into wet technique to let the colors blend on their own. This is a quick and easy way to color up these butterflies. So for the watercolor, I'm going to want to prepare my paints first. So I just have a little palette here, and I'm just going to pick out first two different purples. So I'm going to be getting a lavender, like a light lilac. And when you do your watercolors, you just want to pick out, it doesn't really matter which colors, you just want a lighter, a medium tone, and a dark tone for whatever colors you're going to be doing. So, and you want the texture to be more like a heavy cream texture. So I'm pulling the paint from my palette there, and then I'm going to mix it with some water. This will go a lot faster if we have all of these pre-ready to go. So I'm just spending that little bit of time to get those paints ready so they're quick and easy to drop into the butterfly colors. So that's my light tone. I'm going to pull a medium tone now, which is going to be a medium orchid. I'm going to just put it right here. And again, building up that color. And just adding it to my palette, adding a little bit of water as I go. Again, looking for that kind of cream consistency because you do want it kind of concentrated because we're going to be pulling from this color. There we go. And then I'm going to pull my dark tone. And for that, I'm actually going to mix it. I'm going to be getting some Prussian blue because I want it really nice and deep purple. I'm going to take that Prussian blue and then I'm going to mix it with that previous mid-tone medium orchid color. So I'm just pulling that to the side there, and then I'm going to mix them together. And you can see that gives us a darker blend. So we have a lighter, medium, and a darker tone. And you can increase the contrast on this by adding a little bit more blue to give it a deeper tone. And then we are going to be doing a orangish and blue butterfly and then a pink butterfly. So I'm going to just quickly grab some pink here. And again, just mixing it. And then grabbing a medium tone pink. I'll add it right there. Give it a little bit more contrast. And you can just build up those colors as you go. This is rose pink in the middle. The lightest color was light pink. Add a little bit more water to that one. And then our darker pink, I'm going to be using a coral color first and then mixing it with the previous, so it's kind of a reddish tone. And then I'm going to mix it with our darker rose pink. So there we go. Now we've got those tones. And then I just need to do blue and some orange. And the orange, I'm using gold orange. And I'm going to use some of these pinks to tone it down, so we don't actually have to mix all the extra oranges. I'm just going to stick with this single orange. And then the blue, like kind of a turquoisey blue, I'm going to be grabbing kind of a mint color for my lighter tone. Just like that. And then my darker tone, I'm going to go with a kind of ultramarine blue. Just like that. And we can add a little bit of Prussian blue as well to deepen that tone and make it tie in with our previous purple color. So there we go. Now we have all of our colors ready to go. This will help save us a lot of time when we go to finish painting. So I'm going to set this right to the side of our butterflies here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just wet all of their wings. So when we're painting with watercolor, we're going to be doing the wet into wet, so we want to actually just paint the entire area inside the wings with the water. So you can see the paper will have a slight shine to it. And anywhere you have the water is where your paint is going to go. So you want to just get it nice and coated. And you're going to do one wing at a time. So I'm going to do this one first. And I'm going to go ahead and drop in. I'm going to do this one as our pink, so I'm going to grab our light pink color and I'm going to drop it right there at the center part of the wing, and then go along where the shadow areas are, and then just let it spread out on its own. And you can see the color is just going to go on its own and then transition from a deeper color to a lighter. And if you want it to kind of spread through there, you can tilt your paper and let it go through on its own, and then tilt it back. And I don't have to worry about taping down these wings because they are kind of curling, but that actually adds to the look of the butterfly wings. It makes them look more three-dimensional. So again, you're just going to let that color spread out on its own, and then we're going to take the medium tone and we're just going to drop it right over that previous tone there. And then you can let that color just go through on its own. If you have any areas where the water didn't quite get, you can rinse off your brush, dry it off just barely. You want just a little bit of a damp brush, and then just quickly swipe over those areas that didn't, where it's not spreading, and it will go back through. So then you can tilt it again and then let it respread through that area, just like that. And you can build up your color as much as you want or as little as you want. And you can also drop additional colors in if you want as well. So I'm going to do a little bit of that dark pink, our darkest tone, which was that rose, with the coral mixed. I'm just going to pull that up around the top where that part of the wing is. And then I'm going to re-wash over that area so it spreads out a little bit more. If you get portions where you get a little bit dark, you can always take a dry brush and swipe through, and it'll pick up some of that color. So again, I'm just going to add a little bit more color to this, and just dropping in the colors that you like, that you think will work well. You can even grab different colors in the palette. It doesn't have to be all monotone colors. So I'm adding a little bit of that bright coral color, and then I'm going to tone it down with a little bit more of the rose. I'm just pulling this directly from the palette now to give it a really good contrast. And you can see how bright those wings are becoming now, just doing a few layers over each other and then just letting it mix on its own. And you can just tilt the wing and you can see the color goes wherever the water is. And then we'll just let that side dry. So now we're going to do the same thing with this opposite wing. We're just going to get this wing totally wet. And you could do individual sections or the entire thing like I'm doing here. And then just like before, I'm going to take the lighter tone first and drop it right in. And follow it along the shadow lines. And then I'm going to take that medium tone and then drop that right in and just let it spread out on its own. And now I'm going to be taking that coral color and then again just dropping it right over that pink and just letting those colors dance and play on your paper. And it'll make for some really fun different wings. Now right here, if you get a little too much paint, you can see right here is kind of pooling on that end. I can tilt it back towards the center, but if I want to pick up some of that paint, you can take the edge of a little paper towel and just tap the edge and let it soak up some of that color. So you can see, just tap it right into there and let it take a little bit of that color away. You get a little bit too much. Just like that. Okay, so now we're going to set this little butterfly to the side as we do our last two. So this one here, this other big one, I want to do with orange on the top and blue on the bottom. So I'm just going to wet this top portion first on both sides. This side as well. And then I'm going to be grabbing some of that orangey yellowy color and just dropping it in, letting it spread out on its own. And because we're painting wet into wet, we're not going to have any hard lines, which is going to be really nice. And then I'm going to grab a little bit of a brighter orange. I'm going to pull some goldenrod and just dab it right into the center of that kind of lighter yellowy orange. And then add a little bit more along the bottom part. And then tilt this so it can spread out on its own. You can see there's a little line there that didn't quite get enough water on it. So you're just kind of playing with the colors. Just getting that area wet so this color goes through. Same thing here. And you can drop in any colors you like. You can mix it up, intensify the color. I'm going to pull some orange red just to add that last little pop on the inside part of those wings. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and, before I do this, because these two sections, you don't want to do this bottom part blue because it's going to bleed into that bright, beautiful orangish yellow. So what I'm going to do is I am going to start painting this next butterfly here. And I'm going to do this one in purples. So I'm going to grab our light purple after I wet the wings. So I'm just going to do both sides this time so we can get this little guy done. But again, just making sure I wet, because this one's a smaller butterfly, we can do, and we're doing it all one color. We can easily do that. So I wet that whole area. Now I'm going to take that lighter lilac color and just dab it on the side there and let it spread on its own. Same thing on this opposite side. And pulling it along the bottom. And then just tilting it so it can move on its own. Then I'm going to take the medium tone and just dab it right along the inside portion of the wings. Let that color spread out on its own. You can see that color is really starting to build. I'm going to pull it a little bit down along this bottom edge. Just like that. And then I'm going to take that darker indigo that we mixed with that medium tone and just dab it there. As it dries, you'll see the lines, the stamp lines again. It is a little bit dark now, but it will balance out once it starts drying. You can see how different and beautiful those wings are turning out. Okay, so now we're going to set this little one aside. I think I'm going to do just one more dab of that darker tone and then let that spread out on its own. Okay, so now we're going to go back to this one and we're going to do the blue. So I'm going to finish wetting this bottom area and here too. And then I'm going to take our light mint color and just let it pull through. And then I'm going to take our medium blue and then I'm just going to finish off with a darker blue. So I'm going to take a little bit more of that indigo impression blue and then just dab, whoops, grab the wrong color. So if you do that, grabbing the wrong color like I just did, you can quickly dab that up. Just like that. And then we can go back through and add that blue again. And then here I got a little too much, so I'm just going to take the edge of the paper towel and there. So now we have a really, really cool color tone. Okay, so that's it for the watercolor. I'm going to move this to the side and now we're going to get started on our card base. So now for the bases, I just cut some strips of paper. So for our base card here, I have Flutter by Butterfly from the stamp set stamped on the bottom. This for the main A2 card, I cut this at 2 1/4 by 4 1/4 inches wide. And then I cut a coordinating one for our scrapbook layout, and this one is 12 inches wide by 3 1/4 inches tall. So we are going to be using some Distress ink in Distress Oxide and Salty Ocean, and I'm first going to do a little bit of ink blending on these about the same way. I'm going to do diagonal. So just like this, I'm using a blending sponge, blending at a corner diagonal, not covering up my little sentiment here, but kind of going angled across. I'm going to mirror the same thing with our smaller one too for the card. I'm just building up a little bit of color here for the background. We're going to ink blend over this with the stencil too. I'm concentrating more of the ink onto that right edge and not going too dark with my ink blending. So I'm going to do the same thing on the small butterfly one for their card. And again, just concentrating on that corner edge. This is going to kind of look like a sky that our butterflies are flying through. And then I'm going to do this opposite edge for the card. It's only going to have 2 angled corners because it's a lot smaller for this, but on the larger scrapbook layout one, we're going to add a little bit more. We're going to add another probably 3 blended areas. So again, just focusing on that corner. So just like that for our Flutter by Butterfly for the small for the card. Now for the scrapbook layout, we're going to mirror that same diagonal. We're going to go right through the center here. It's going to kind of break it up and look a little bit like clouds. And just keep that, the edges a little bit darker than the center. And again, just slightly pulling this across in small circular motions, keeping the same diagonal that I have on the edge. And then same thing on this bottom edge, pulling that color back up. And then here on this coordinating edge down here, I'm going to do the same thing with that blue. and just blending that out. And concentrating that color on the side, just like that. So just light blending, doesn't have to be super dark. Now I'm going to take our stencil, which is our butterfly wing stencil, and I'm just going to layer it right over the blue sections like this. And I'm going to take that same exact ink, and I'm using a makeup sponge brush, and I'm just going to quickly pull that color right over that stencil on those areas. Let it go a little bit into the white, but focusing mostly on that corner edge to make sure it stays nice and dark. And then I'm going to remove that stencil, and you have just a little bit of texture there. And then I'm going to rotate the stencil, and I'm going to do the same thing in this area here. So I'm just going to build up the ink on this brush here, and then I'm going to pull through with small circular motions in the center of the stencil, pulling this towards the middle and a little bit into our white area on both sides, just like that. And I'm going to rotate it again, and I'm going to do the same thing right here. It doesn't need to be uniform. We're just giving it a little bit of texture, and it's going to give it some interest. So just like that, and then rotate it again, and we're going to do this bottom corner here. And again, letting it go a little bit into the white edge, just giving a tiny bit of that wing texture. And there we go, you can see it playing across the whole little contrast band. And then we're going to do the same thing with the small card section, and this is going to be a lot easier because it fits this whole thing here. So I'm just going to take a little bit of washi tape so I don't shift our card base. I'm going to press that down, get it right there in the middle, and I'm just going to layer across like that. And again, just building up the color onto my brush, and then blending right down a little bit into the white, but mostly focusing on that edge. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this opposite side. Just loading that up, and then getting this corner edge, letting the color go a little bit into the white. And there we go. Okay, so now we can activate this ink. I'm just going to take a little toothbrush here with some water, and I'm just going to spritz it. I'm going to do it off camera really quick so I don't get water all over our work area. Since this is the oxide ink, it's going to activate it. I'm going to let it sit for just a moment with the water droplets. And again, spritzing the little one on the card. Make sure you stamped your sentiment with waterproof ink. Otherwise, when you spritz it, it can make the ink bleed. Okay, so now I'm just going to dab up those little water droplets that I spritzed, and you can see it gave it some fun little texture. Just like that. And now we could start assembling our card. Just going to clean up our area. We're going to do our card first. So I have here an A2 size card. I just cut a coordinating mat an 1/8 of an inch smaller than the main card base. I'm going to go ahead and just glue this right onto the center. It's going to make for such fast, easy cards. And again, just setting that right into the middle there. Lining it up, I'm using liquid adhesive to make sure I have a little bit of wiggle room to make sure that's nice and center. I cut a coordinating mat for the center. It's just a little bit less than 1/8 of an inch on the top and bottom. I'm going to quickly glue this onto that little mat. And this is the little band we just ink blended. Just like that. And then I'm just going to take that same liquid adhesive, and I'm going to do this at the bottom third of the card. You don't want it exactly in the center. So just press that right down onto your card. Then you can take just two, this is actually cuts like this is die cut, but you could easily just take two different circle dies and just cut one and then cut the center of it to create just a little frame, almost like a little wreath. And I'm just going to take this and I'm going to layer it right on top. Just going off the edge just slightly. You want a little bit of difference there. And then press that down. And then we're going to take two of our butterflies that we just made, a large one and a small one. So let's see here. I think I'm going to do our blue one with the orange. And I'm just going to use foam tape so it can pop them up just slightly. I'm going to take a little bit of foam tape onto the back. And I'm just going to press this one right there, Flutter by Butterfly. And then we have our small one. I'm going to do this one of the purple ones. And again, I'm just going to take a little bit of foam tape so it has some height and dimension. And I'm going to make this at a different angle and then just press it down right there. And there we go. So now we have our first card done. Now I'm going to move on to the scrapbook layout, which we're going to be doing the same exact thing. So I have here, let me zoom out just a tiny bit so you guys can see a little bit better. Okay. So I have here a 12 by 12 piece of paper, and I ended up cutting an 8-inch by 12-inch coordinating piece. All I'm going to do is just glue this right on to the base of our 12 by 12 paper. You could use double-sided tape, or any kind of liquid adhesive. And I'm just going to set this right into the center of our layout here. Okay, and then press that down. And now I'm going to take our little band here, our Flutter by Butterfly. Just like the card, I cut a coordinating mat that has a little tiny bit of white peeking out both sides, 1/8 of an inch larger, but 12 inches wide. I'm going to go ahead and glue this to the center of that little band there. Putting that right into the center, pressing it down, and then I'm just going to use that same liquid adhesive. And again, you could use a tape runner if you wanted to for this. Just lining that right up into the center this time of our scrapbook layout. Just like that. So now we have this really pretty butterfly theme going on. And then I have just a couple of little photo mats here. I just cut, these are 4 inches by 3 inches, and I cut an 1/8 of an inch coordinating mat. I'm going to go ahead and glue those onto their mats. I cut 2 of them. So there's one with coordinating butterfly paper, and then I cut one with sparkle dot paper, just like this, and they all coordinate with the same paper pack. It could be any type of paper pack you have that's kind of a spring or butterfly feel. And these are both cut the exact same measurements. Okay. So now I'm just going to take, you could match your photos. You could put this up with a little bit of foam tape so you can still get on the photo underneath it. I'm just, for time's sake, I'm just going to glue these right on right now. So I'm going to glue this at a little bit of an angle. And then this one here is going to go a little bit of an angle as well, but I'm going to just pop it up in a little bit of foam tape so it has some dimension. Just like that, so angle just slightly. And then I cut another little frame just like I did for the card. And I'm just adding a little bit of liquid adhesive to it. And I'm going to just nest that underneath those 2 photo frames there. So it's just off the edge, so it's in thirds. So you have 1, 2, 3. Then I'm going to take my butterflies, and I'm going to add some foam tape just like before onto the back for a little bit of dimension. And then again, just like before, we're going to make these go at an angle. So this one's going to be flying in this way, and our opposite one, our purple one's going to be going the opposite way. So again, just a tiny bit of foam tape. And I'm just going to move this up a little bit onto our frame. There we go. And then just press that down. And there we go. Now we have our finished scrapbook layout and our coordinating finished card. How fun was that? And so super easy, in the same design basically, but for two totally different things. So again, let me go over the products I use, and then I'm going to go over the new release, the items that we have. So this was the Butterfly Wings stencil. Right here is the Flutter by Butterfly stamp. Then here I have the What's Up Buttercup stamp set. This one is so cute. It has little cats. They have like a little heart, tree. You have this one here with little flowers. We should put our tulips together, get clover it. What's Up Buttercup. Just some really fun, different sentiments. Another item that we just released for the February release is Have a Cow stamp with these adorable little cows. You have the cute grass, you have Holy Cow, and a bunch of other fun sentiments. I have here the Spring in Your Step stamp. This has adorable little tennis shoes with some roses. Hello Spring, put some spring in your step, and then another one with some beautiful little tropical flowers. Then we have the Bloom stamp. It has these adorable little girls here. You can see just so fun and happy, some flowers, rose, or you could color it as a peony. Every flower must grow through dirt, and when in doubt, bloom. So some really fun, encouraging sentiments. We also have the Wet Noses and Sloppy Kisses stamp. Right here, these adorable little pug, and then you have this cute little guy with a little ball in his mouth. Some of the sentiments include wet noses and sloppy kisses, positivity, unconditional love, paw prints, making life better with, and then you have treats, paw prints. Super fun little set there. And then some of the new stencils we have the Seeing Spots and Paw Print stencil. This is a 2-pack. It comes with the little paw prints. Let me show you. The little paw prints, and then also a really fun, almost like cow print texture that would go really cute with the little cow stamps, and this would go adorable with the dog set. Then we also have here this one is Collecting Leaves stencil. It has these beautiful leaves. Those would work really great on a scrapbook layout or card as well. For backgrounds, we have the Paisley Fields stencil with this adorable kind of henna design. All these little paisleys. Perfect for spring and summer. And then we have the In Your Shoes stencil, which goes perfectly with that little Spring in Your Step stamp set with the tennis shoes and the flowers. But look how cute. This would even make a really cute little detective background, or, leaving footprints on my heart. So some super fun new items available in the Sassy and Crafty shop. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye.